Welcome, everyone, to the Real News Network. My name is Maximilian Alvarez. I'm the editor in chief here at the Real News, and it's so great to have you all with us. The Real News is a nonprofit, viewer supported network. So if you want to help us keep bringing you important coverage of the issues and voices that matter, please head on over to therealnews.com/donate and become a supporter of our work. And thank you so much to all of you who are supporters already. Amazon workers at the massive JFK 8 warehouse on Staten Island made history earlier this year by becoming the first Amazon facility in the United States to successfully vote to unionize. Predictably, though, Amazon has fought back every step of the way. Rather than recognize the union victory and sit down in good faith at the bargaining table with the union to hammer out a contract, Amazon has continued to fire pro union workers and try to invalidate the results of the historic union election. But the battle on Staten Island is just one front of a much larger struggle. Amazon workers around the country are organizing and fighting for what they deserve. And Amazon, for its part, is charging ahead with its rampant union busting and doing everything in its power to squash workers' efforts to exercise their rights to organize in the workplace. At the RDU1 Distribution Center, for instance, which is located a few miles southeast of Raleigh, North Carolina, spans 2 million square feet, and employs over 4,000 people, workers have been organizing with the rank and file group Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment, or CAUSE. As described on their website, quote, CAUSE is a worker-led movement defending workers' rights and organizing to battle the corruption and exploitation by Amazon. We seek to form a union to represent all Amazon's workers, starting here in North Carolina. CAUSE was formed in January of 2022 by a coalition of present and former Amazon employees, end quote. Speaking to journalist and Real News contributor Michael Sinato over at The Guardian, Albert Elliott, a CAUSE organizer who has worked at the RDU1 facility for nearly 2 years, described how workers there began organizing in response to mistreatment across the board, including discrimination, racism, unequal treatment from managers, unfair write-ups, and insufficient breaks for the work that they do. Quote, we are treated like robots, as if we have batteries on our backs, Elliott told Sinato. Management, they're actually the robots. They have been trained to give us this generic Amazon response of, well, we're sorry that you feel that way, and so on and so forth. It's just a generic response because they don't know what to say and they don't know what to do, end quote. Then, earlier this month, Elliott was terminated from Amazon in a suspected act of retaliation. To talk about his termination, the organizing efforts at the North Carolina facility, and what viewers and listeners can do to help, I'm honored to be joined today by Albert Elliott himself. Albert, thank you so much for joining us today at The Real News.
Absolutely. Thank you, Max. And good afternoon, everyone.
Well, we really appreciate it, man. And, we wanted to send our love and solidarity to you. We know this is a very rough time right now, and we'll do everything that we can to help spread the word. And, before we get to, the termination and what folks can do to show solidarity with you and everyone over at Cause down there in North Carolina, I was wondering if we could start by just getting to know a little more about you. So, could you maybe tell viewers and listeners a bit more about yourself, how you came to work at Amazon, the kind of work that you did there, and how you yourself got involved with the organizing at Cause?
Absolutely. I currently live in Fayetteville, North Carolina, where I have been living at the entire time that I've been working with Amazon, which has been 2 years. I started there, and I just shared with some of my friends and even some of my coworkers that I find it odd that I started there in September of 2020, and here it is, we're in September of 2022, and now comes along my termination. However, I started there 2 years ago, driving a 45 minutes to an hour drive every well, 4 days, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I began to make that trip along with a friend. We applied together at the very beginning. And due to things out of her control, she couldn't continue on further with the job at Amazon due to some medical issues and some family things she had going on. So I in turn had to step up my game a little bit more, and I was forced to drive a vehicle that I did have, but it was not mechanically sound. However, this vehicle did take me right up until the 2 year mark of me being at Amazon, and it actually broke down on me at the Amazon facility right in the parking lot. I backed in one morning just before work. Backed in, I turned my car off, and needless to say, it never started again. And that's when also that I realized that Amazon really did not care about their employees and what they had going on as far as on a personal level, because my card sat in there and I'm employed with Amazon, and I figure I'm employed here. If I go in and tell someone that my car's sitting in the parking lot and it's broke down, I can't seem to get it back home a whole hour away. If they just give me a little bit of time, I would have it removed from that parking lot. Well, fast forward, I happen to thank God get a approved for another vehicle. I won't say necessarily brand new, but it's brand new to me. And to my surprise, about probably 3 or 4 days after I got approved for that vehicle, I pulled into the Amazon parking lot, still making plans to get my car towed. I pulled into the Amazon parking lot only to find that now my car is gone from the parking space that I backed in and broke down at. And no one had stolen it. It's simply been towed away by Amazon. They had their security had them towed away to a uh, storage place there in Raleigh. So therefore, um, giving me another bill. Um, so now I had to think of a way to be able to get my vehicle, whether it was running or not, from this facility that Amazon had towed from back to Fayetteville, North Carolina. Well, when I got in touch with this particular place and called them, I learned at that time that my storage fee and my towing bill was at $1,000, and it was steadily going up at that point in time. So I was faced with the decision of, even though the car wouldn't start, I was faced with the decision of now not getting this car fixed, but now having to figure out how I'm going to come up with $1,000 to pay them to get my car towed. And once I paid them, I had to have it moved off their lot right then that particular day. So I had to make the decision to relinquish my car to cover my bill because I didn't have $1,000 to pay that bill. So in turn, I turned my vehicle over to this particular towing company to cover the towing bill, the Amazon, and that's when I really realized that Amazon really does not care about their employees and about the livelihood of their employees. Because if I had not gotten approved for something else, I would be without a car. I would be without a job and no source of income because that at the time was my only source of transportation. Um, so shortly after that, Reverend Ryan, one of the founding members of Cause, along with Miss Mary Hill, myself and Reverend Ryan began to speak to me one day. We were talking and we'd spoken a time or two before. And he began to speak to me about some things that were going on and about possibly organizing and trying to form the union there. And I told him I was all for it 100%. I was behind it. I'm behind him, stand with him right then, right there, in solidarity right there with him and Miss Mary Hill. And they kind of spearheaded this thing and got it to where it is today. Reverend Ryan, Miss Mary Hill, and myself being three of the first founding members of this organization.
Hell yeah. And we're gonna talk a bit more about how cause itself has grown and the kind of work that y'all are doing over there. But I guess before we get there, let's like drill down a little more on the way Amazon treats its workers. So yeah, I mean the example that you gave is sadly consistent with other stories that I've heard from Amazon workers around the country, right? Whether they're
Right,
trying to get workers' comp, right? Whether they're just like trying to figure out a way to get to work, workers
right,
commuting for around 3 hours from, the Bronx out to Staten Island. Like, Amazon doesn't care about that. It says it'll get shuttles for people, and it never does, yada, yada, yada. So you're right to, bring up how even outside of the workplace, right, there are ways that Amazon, demonstrates to workers that, they're not, being taken care of, as you said. So, like, what about inside the facility? I was wondering if you could, like, say a bit more about the work that you did inside the facility and, just give people a sense of what goes on in there and what sort of mistreatment, you saw and experienced that led to, y'all wanting to organize.
right. So, um, I can honestly say and rightfully speak that it's nothing short of horrible. It's a complete horrible experience. They feed you the good cake and ice cream when you first apply to Amazon. Oh, this is a great place to work, and we do this for you, and we do that for you, and just kind of reel you in. And I would say after about 6 months is when you really start to feel the environment and what they're all about. But it doesn't even take that long. I'll say in a matter of about 2 or 3 weeks, you start to feel and find out what's really going on. But the mistreatment of people with disabilities. You have people that are working downstairs. And when I say downstairs, this is a massive building. So it consists of 4 floors, and a lot of the main work being on the very bottom floor, on the first floor. You have people there that are in wheelchairs that may not be able to reach their product that they have to pack these shipments in above their stations, and they should be accommodating these people because you think this person is in a wheelchair. How are they able to reach above their heads? They can only reach but so far. They're not being accommodated. You have um, pregnant women that are in jeopardy of putting themselves in jeopardy of having miscarriages or even losing their children because of the hard work, because of the backbreaking work that's being done there. They just don't care. You have people that are I for one, standing on your feet for 10, 11, 12 hours a day. Now we're being forced to, it was we were being forced as a mandatory thing now to wear steel toe shoes. And many people just can't, they cannot stand the agony of wearing those steel toe shoes for 10, 11 hours a day. I being one of them just could not stand it, just could not take it. People are complaining of back issues. They don't want you sitting down. Um, if you're sitting down for 2 or 3 minutes, management's come around and saying, "Are you okay?" Or you know, what I'm saying, "Is there anything we can do to help you?" Or "Don't be sitting down too long." And you all just simply taking a rest break, because your back may be hurting, your arms may be hurting, your legs may be hurting, or you're just tired. Period for the day. After standing up, many times, like me, I get up at was getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to prepare myself to be at work at 7 o'clock. You think 4 o'clock in the morning? That consists of me driving an hour there, trying to sit in the parking lot and kind of get my mind in the right mind frame to work that day, and working all day, and then getting back in my vehicle to drive home a whole hour. That's very strenuous and not getting the proper rest. So there's craziness going on. You see people that are getting promoted that really don't know the job. They really don't know what they're doing. They're being told what to do by a computer or by management. This is what you should be doing, or that's what you should be doing, or my computer says I should be doing this, or my computer says I should be doing that. Which is they're pretty much micromanaging what it is, because you have a lot of in management. You'll see a lot of um, younger demographic of people. Um, that's telling some of these older people that they should be in charge, or they look like they should be in charge. But this is the demographic of people that you have walking around with their computers all day long, and their computers are in their face, and they're telling you what to do based off of a number. not based off experience. Many of the management doesn't have, yeah, they have some that has experience, but a lot of them, I would say 60 probably to 70% of them, that they are fresh faces off of the college campus. 9 times out of 10, their major's not even in something like uh, Amazon or distribution. Their major may be in music or biology or science or something of that nature. So, but because Amazon offered them this, what they think is a substantial amount of money, they take it. Fresh out of college, they're just getting started. Absolutely. Meanwhile, you treat your employees like trash. You have no respect for anyone there. You have no respect for people that have disabilities or people that may be less fortunate than you. You have people that are you have associates that are visually impaired that are being led around the building by other coworkers. And it's not because those other coworkers are trained to do that or are put in place to do that. It's simply because no one else, management is not taking the initiative to take these people by the hand and say, hey, let's, you know what I'm saying, let me point you in the right direction or let me lead you in the right direction. And these people have a handicap. You have no respect for these people that have a handicap that legally have a handicap and rightfully deserve the help, deserve the respect. And again, it's just a complete clown show, if you will.
Right. No, and it is, to be clear, illegal for a company to not provide those accommodations for workers with disabilities, right?
Absolutely.
And I think that this is really important because, for the real news, what was it like? Yeah, almost 2 years ago. I was down in Bessemer, Alabama when the first union election was happening at the massive fulfillment center there, where workers were trying to organize with the retail, wholesale, and department store union. I was also, on Staten Island for the real news earlier this year, talking to Amazon workers there. And of course, people are understandably invested in and excited about the organizing efforts that are happening, even if they are ultimately unsuccessful, as was the case down in Bessemer. But I think the thing I want to stress for people watching and listening is that all of the workplace issues and the treatment that workers receive at Amazon that we were talking about during both of those union elections, right? The grueling workloads and the brutal backbreaking pace that workers have to keep up, the surveillance that they're under as their, quote, time off task is measured down to the second. And
Absolutely.
folks, bodies are broken, the incredibly high turnover rate of 150%, like none of that went away, right? All of that is still very much here, even if the news has moved on from Bessemer or even Staten Island, right? Workers at Amazon are still being ground down to dust, and we can't forget about that. And we also, as we mentioned, it's not just the Amazon Labor Union that's organizing. It's groups like Cause and Amazonians United, and there's a lot of important movement happening. So I was wondering, Albert, if you could talk a little bit more about Cause, how it got started, and how it's grown since it began.
Okay. So cause, as you mentioned, is Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment. Love my brothers and sisters. Love my organization. Love the work that we're doing, and very, very proud of the work that we have done thus far. But as I said, it began with our president, which is Reverend Ryan, and one of the other founding members, Miss Mary Hill, and myself. It began with all three of us, and we began to build that things were happening all around. People were just being talked to in a manner that was not fitting even for a child, if you will. People were being mistreated. Some people were being brought to tears. And then in the midst of all this, you had all this COVID going on, and you had it's like certain areas in Amazon were a breeding ground for COVID. You heard of people going home and being sent home by the bucketfuls, if you will. And it was a really beginning to be a scary situation. And like I said, a lot of the management we're talking to, a lot of the associates, as if they were children, or as if they were some type of king on a mountain or something like that. And it was just we were just basically fed up with it and tired of it, and kept saying that something needed to be done and something needed to be done now. That we didn't come here to be chastised as children. We didn't come to be we didn't come to be browbeaten. We come to simply do our job, work hard, and go home. And I felt like we weren't allowed to do that. We felt that promotions were not being done fairly. That again about the break times, breaks were entirely too short, and too many people were saying the same things over again. That we're just too tired and it's just hard to push through the day. It just all kind of stuff going on, just the unimaginable, unthinkable stuff that was going on. It was just crazy. So there was a need for change, and there was a need for change now. So what we've done thus far since beginning organizing and back in January, we put a petition of demands of things that we wanted: a higher pay raise, more break times, that because you found people were beginning to have, I won't say necessarily mental issues, but the job was weighing on people mentally. Um, and there was a young man or young lady, I don't want to mistake it, that did go home because of the stresses of Amazon, did go home or went outside of Amazon and committed suicide. And there was another young individual that was contemplating it right in the bathroom of Amazon, was contemplating that. And thank God, one of the associates talked them back off the ledge and begged and pleaded with them. People were running around and saying that, and it wasn't a rumor, it wasn't a lie, that they were being faced with the fact of we're having to choose whether to have groceries or gas, or have shelter or food, have shelter or clothes for your children. Working for a behemoth like Amazon, you shouldn't have to make that choice. We shouldn't have be $15 an hour. That's not a living wage. And you have most of your people, you have the majority of your workforce driving 45 minutes to an hour, maybe even 2 hours to work 4 days a week. So basically, what it turns out to be is you're not working for gas money. You're not working to buy clothes. You're not working to buy shoes. You're not working to buy food. Most people were sharing their lunch. They were packing enough stuff for them and maybe two or three other people, and having to split it with these people. That was just unfair. That what were we working for? We put in too much hard work to have to sit down and share a meal. Yes, the option was that many people explored the option of being able to carpool each day. You know what I'm saying? Riding together, getting at a meeting point and riding together, maybe. But sometimes I may have to be to work at 7. The person I carpool with me, I have to be to work till 8. So I'm forcing that person to come to work in extreme a whole hour early, just so I can get there on time. That shouldn't be. That's unrealistic, and that shouldn't be happening. We should all be able to ride comfortably in our own vehicles, put gas in our cars, and feed ourselves. And we're not able to do that. And like I said, it began to help people's mental health. And we're asking for like to have an on-site mental counselor, just to just to get out our frustration. And it may be something that we were dealing with at home, or it may not necessarily have to be on a job, or we may have gotten bad news while we were at work, but just something just to give us some more support. And also, like I said, to have us recognized. You have all these other groups. Amazon's got all these other affinity groups, and they have all these groups there at Amazon. It's probably maybe 10 or 12, if that many. They're affinity groups, and they get together, they join, and they talk about what they want to do and how they want to make the place better. But I hear all this planning, and I see nothing being done. So that's when calls came into play to start doing something. And like I said, since we've had probably I'm going to say 700 plus signatures on our petition to form the union. We've had support all across the board in a major way. Our Twitter account is up, our Facebook account is up. So we have support of the community as well as our fellows.
And just for folks watching and listening who are maybe, they know that the Amazon in Bessemer was trying to organize with the RWDSU, the Amazon Labor Union in Staten Island is independent. Is it cause is also independent
We
itself as
are.
well, right?
We are.
Cool. Just wanted to make sure that folks got that detail. And it's really incredible the work that y'all are doing down there. And I would encourage folks to follow the cause account on Twitter. And just to kind of, I guess, like, bring us around the final turn here, right? On top of all of the awful stuff that you're describing that goes on at this Amazon facility, the ways that workers are treated and run into the ground, and yeah, it's just really dystopian, like you said, that you're essentially working to be able to afford to drive to work, right? So like what's the
Absolutely.
what's the point, right? And that's
Absolutely.
that's completely unjust. And on top of that, in a suspected act of retaliation for organizing efforts, you yourself were notified that you were being terminated this month. So could you talk to us about that, where things stand right now, what you've heard from the company, and most importantly, what folks out there watching and listening can do to show solidarity with you, with cause, and with Amazon workers everywhere?
Okay. So I found it funny, like I said in the very beginning, that I started in September of 2020. And here it is with September of 2022. And I'd heard before that if you've been there over Amazon over 6 months, even over a year, then they want you gone. But I figured I do my work. I come to work on time every day. I don't have any problems. I don't make any real big issues up until lately with trying to organize a union. So I'm not really giving them a reason to just wrongfully terminate me. So I should be okay. So we've come out with our cause merchandise. And 2 days prior to them calling me to the office, I wore my cause T-shirt along with the pin that I have, and I meant to have it on today, but I dressed differently. But I had on my cause T-shirt and my button on my lanyard, and I was just walking around, just a regular day. Um, Using regular clothes, and nobody's really saying anything. Nobody's really doing anything. Nothing, no different. But I'm quite sure management noticed that I was walking around with this merchandise on. So, um, 2 days after that, I get called downstairs to a department that I was forced to work in. Mind you, Amazon told me they would never force us to work in any department. They would never put us in a situation where we were forced to be uncomfortable. If we didn't want to work in a department, we didn't have to work there. But for the past couple of months, I've been forced to go to this particular department. Okay, so this particular day, I go to this department and I'm sitting there and I'm working, and break time comes up. I go to my break and I come back, and on my way back, one of the associates says, "Hey, um, the manager wants to see you at the locker room near the break room." And when I get there, I says one of the HR representatives, I said there, and I said, "Hey, my manager told me to come here, and that I said, I'm not sure what this is about. I was sent up here to meet with my manager." So he begins to tell me. He says, "Are you Albert?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "Albert." I said, "Yes." He said, "Oh, you were sent here. You were sent here. I requested you." The HR representative. I said, "Okay." I said, "So what's this about?" So he says, "Well, Amazon is doing this new thing now, and we're doing a random drug test." And I thought, hmm, so when did we start doing random drug tests? He was like, "Oh, this is just a brand new program that we started. I said, okay. So I said, well, what do I need to do? So he says, well, go behind this wall here, and I'm going to give you a test, and um, you just read the instructions. I'm going to get you logged in, and you just read the instructions on the screen, and you follow through with the test and things like that, and um, move forward, and it'll tell you every step of the way what you need to do. I said, okay, sure. So I sits down and I try to log into the system probably about 5 or 6 times, and to no avail. I'm able to log in. So he says, "Well, hold on." He says, "I have to reach out to someone and call and see what's happening." I said, "Okay." He says, "Give me a few minutes." He says, "Sit back down." So finally, he gets me logged in. Um, I take the one test, which is an oral swab, and swabs it in my mouth as he told me to, and takes it back out. I'm following the instructions on the iPad or the tablet or whatever it was he gave me. And he came around the wall and he says, He said, it's not showing any results. He says, it's turning red. I said, no. I said, is it supposed to? He said, yeah. He said, something's supposed to read on it. I said, well, I'm not seeing anything. He said, well, maybe the test is defective. We're going to give you a different test. Okay, sure. So I said, at that point in time, I didn't have anything to worry about. I wasn't concerned about anything. Um, so he had me sit down again and he gave me another test and I administered the test myself again, just me and the test and this little tablet that he gave me. So once I did this test, it began to show little red lines in the test. So he says, "Are you seeing anything different?" I said, "Yeah." Now I'm seeing the red lines on the test. I guess that's what I'm supposed to see. He said, "Yeah." He said, "That's it." So after about, I probably stayed around there about an hour. After about 20 minutes, he comes to me. He took my test and he went back to his station. And I'm just sitting there, and he hasn't said anything to me thus far. So I finally gets up from my seat and I go over to his cubicle. I say, "Hey, what's going on?" So he tells me, "Well, um, he says to me, well, your test came back as inconclusive, so we're going to have to send it off to the lab to have it tested further, to have it read further to find out what's going on." And he says, while we're doing that, in the meantime, we're going to put you on a 5-day suspension. So I said, well, what does inconclusive mean? What exactly is going on here? So he says, well, it could be some of your medication that's causing it to show up that way. Now, I find it odd that you mentioned that to me about medication. I never mentioned to him once that I was taking any type of medication. So that let me know that someone had been spying on me. I'm not sure who it was, but they have been spying specifically on me. So at that point in time, I went on suspension, was on suspension for 5 days. Now we fast forward to about 2 weeks ago. Um, so the testing facility calls me, tells me, "Hey, so we're calling from this is the MRO calling from First Advantage to let you know that we found um, a particular substance in your system, and we want to know if you were prescribed this." I said, "Yes, I was." I said, "Yes, I am. It's in my patient file, and my doctor does prescribe it to me." She says, "Okay." She said, "Well, we need the RX number from that prescription so that we can turn this negative into a positive, or positive into a negative, however they do it." I said, "Okay, sure, no problem." So I take the liberty of I take upon myself to go get my entire patient file of every medication that I'm prescribed with the RX numbers, with the doctor's name, the amount of the prescription that's been filled, and I send this in. I actually emailed this to them so they could see everything that was in my patient file. So what struck me was they did tell me that, well, the prescription was for it was filled a year ago. And I thought to myself, well, that doesn't matter. But it's in my patient file. It doesn't matter when it was filled. It's my patient file. It's taken on an as needed basis. So now you're pinpointing because it was filled a year ago. That doesn't matter. What difference does it make? They did ask me to send them in a photocopy of my prescription bottle. I told them I'm not doing that because you're not my doctor, and that violates my rights, my HIPAA laws, and my rights. I don't have to do that. I'm not going to do that. So that gives me a certain time frame to do this, and 3 or 4 days goes by, and finally I receive an email, not from Amazon, but I receive an email from the third party company, which is First Advantage, that I'm being terminated. And I'm like, this is odd. I'm like, and what was more odd about it, the day before I was supposed to return back to work is when this email, the day I was supposed to return back to work, I received this email stating that Amazon is terminating my employment. I'm like, now why am I receiving an email from this third party company and not Amazon themselves? So now I'm confused as to what's happening. So I'm like, okay, well, what do I do? If I don't show up tomorrow morning, then I'm going to, my UPT time is going to go into the red, which is going to give them all rights to terminate me if I don't show up. If I do show up and I am terminated, it's a complete waste of my time. So what do I do at this point? Well, the next morning I get up. I said, well, I'm just going to wait and I'm going to call. So I get up and I call the ERC, which is um, Amazon's version of HR. I call the ERC and they know nothing of this email. They know nothing of my termination. So ERC said, well, we don't know anything and we're showing you as an active employee. So if I were you, I would probably go in, explain the situation and see what's going on and find out what's going on. Okay. So I said, I live a whole hour away. I said, and that's gas, and that's time, that's all that. So I'm not going to waste my gas and my time driving an hour away if I'm not supposed to be there. So I reaches back out to First Advantage, who sent out the email, and to no avail. They know nothing of this email that has been sent out whatsoever. So I'm like, this is you have got to be kidding me. I'm like, this is I'm like, Amazon knows nothing. The people that sent me the email, they know nothing. I'm like, so I'm dealing with a bunch of idiots here. So I had to get up that morning and drive. I was late. I didn't get there till about 10:30 that morning. Gets there, and I was like, I'm just gonna take my badge. I'm just gonna swipe to see if my badge will allow me into past the security gate. Sure enough, my badge wouldn't let me in. So I said, well, let me speak to security. So I said, my badge won't let me in. He said, okay. He said, well, let me look at your badge, give me your badge, and we'll check it out. So he takes my badge and he says, well, let me get HR to come up here and talk to you. So I stands there for probably 45 minutes, finally waiting for HR to come up front and speak to me. Finally, somebody appears from out of nowhere, from HR, and he says, "Hey," he said, "what's going on?" I said, "Well," I said, "surely I'm not going to have to explain everything to you that I just explained to two other people." So he says, "Well, what's happening?" I said, "So," he says, "because we don't see anything." He said, "Your badge is showing it's suspended." He said, "But we don't see anything in the system." So I said, "Excuse me?" I said, Now I'm confused." I said, "Am I suspended? Am I terminated? What's happening?" So he says, "I don't know." He says, "I'm going to get with the senior HR." He said, "I'm going to get a little bit more details off this." In the meantime, he said, "I would have you wait." He said, "But um, he said, just going back home." I said, and someone will be in touch with you by the end of the day today." So I told him, I said, "Did you realize I just drove an hour here and now you're sending me back home?" I said, "With no compensation, no gas money, no nothing." So he said, "Oh, don't worry, we'll make sure we compensate you for today. So we'll make sure that you are on paid suspension for today." Um, I said, "Okay." I said, "Well, I'm going on back home then. Fine." I said, "There's another day I got off. I can handle my personal business, however." Um, so I drives back to Fayetteville, and I noticed when I drive back, I checked the app, and I noticed now that I have been completely taken off the schedule. Prior to that, I hadn't been taken off the schedule. I had a full schedule for the entire week. Now I've been taken off the schedule. And I still didn't hear from anyone from Amazon, the HR. It still took them 3 more days before they actually reached out to me to actually tell me that I was terminated. So that's where I am now because they so I'm officially terminated from there, but they have no structure whatsoever. They are completely morons. They're complete morons and they're complete idiots. They don't have any. There's no communication between anyone in their HR offices at all. No one communicates because no one knows anything. It's like they have They have one lead HR representative. It's like everything goes to him, and he doesn't communicate anything to the other associates that are there in HR. It's just like I said before, it's just a complete clown show.
Man, I mean, my eyes twitching from hearing that. I mean, because again, it's like you could chalk it up to bureaucratic incompetence, but it just seems like this stuff happens all the time at
Yeah,
Amazon. Like for my show Working People earlier this summer, I interviewed Alicia Johnson, a worker at the Staten Island facility who requested disability accommodations and was terminated by Amazon and has had to fight tooth and nail with HR just to get proof of her terms of employment so she can get unemployment for that time. And she said, like, they're giving her the runaround that whole time too, while like she's struggling to pay rent. So it feels like this incompetence is deliberate, right? I mean, like these cracks are made for folks like yourself to fall through and just, disappear through the system, and so they don't have to deal with you anymore. And that's, again, just me expressing like my thoughts after hearing your story. I don't want to speak for anyone else here, but I mean, I'm just can't imagine how frustrated and angry you must be going through all this, man. And I'm so sorry that you've had to go through this. And I just wanted to ask, we've got to wrap up, but by way of wrapping up, what can folks out there watching and listening do to show support for you and for everyone down there working with Cause in North Carolina?
as far as Cause is concerned, Cause has a GoFundMe page set up as well. That I will get you that information as well because people can donate there as well. And just stand with us in solidarity. Anything that they can do as a community as a whole on social media. Just put out the information of who Amazon really is, because the world doesn't know who Amazon really is and what they're made of. They put on this facade and this persona that they are the greatest company on earth. That they are far from. People don't know if people knew their customers how they're treating their employees. I'm quite sure things would be a bit different for Amazon. Will be make a big difference. There's no respect for us. There's no respect. They don't care about us as human beings. They can care less. All we are is a number to them. And we're aiming to change that. We're aiming to make a difference. So definitely stand with us in solidarity and empowerment. Tell your friends. Show them. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on our Facebook. Just look, and everything is real. There's no lies. There's no cover up. We wouldn't be doing this if we felt like we had to lie or we had to be untruthful about it. So everything is real. We're real people with real struggles, and we need as much support as we can. So, like I said, Max, I will get you that GoFundMe page for that GoFundMe information for cause, as well as myself, to saying to donate whatever amount that they're willing and able and can. I promise you, it's all going to a good cause. We are trying to, the things that we're trying to do, we're trying to build a food bank for some of our unfortunate employees that can't afford groceries or can't afford school supplies for their children or may not have gas for their vehicles and stuff like that. So we are working as hard and as diligent as we can.
So that is Albert Elliott, an organizer with Carolina Amazonians United for Solidarity and Empowerment, who's worked at the RDU1 facility, at Amazon facility in North Carolina for nearly 2 years and was wrongfully terminated earlier in September. Albert, thank you so much for coming on and chatting with us today, man. And I'm really sorry that you're going through this.
Thank you so much, Max. I appreciate it. It's a struggle. I'm trying to keep my head up the best I can. I try to stay busy, just to keep my mind off things, and try to. Luckily, I'm a person that doesn't wait till, as the old saying goes, to allow grass to grow under my feet before I start making a move somewhere. But things are getting tight, and what I did have saved up is running out. So you know, what I'm saying, I'm just prayerfully, hopefully, you know, what I'm saying, things will start to turn around and look better for me. I definitely don't right now. I don't plan on going back to Amazon right now. For the simple fact of is I don't like to work in an environment where I constantly have to look over my shoulder. And I remember at some point in time when I first started there, I didn't have that to worry about. Um, it was it was free will. We were able to work in peace and not be bothered and not be um, micromanaged and not be feel like we're being stalked. Now it's not that type of environment, and it's a very, very uncomfortable environment. No one is respected there. There's no room for growth there. And we're asking people, as hard as it may be, to don't quit, to simply organize. Get with one of the fellow organizers that are there on the ground at Amazon and stand with those guys, stand with them. Reverend Ryan is there, Miss Mary Hill is there, and some of the organizers are there. Get with them and find out what work needs to be done. And definitely get in with some. This is an awesome organization, and we're doing awesome work. We're going to make history. We are making history right now, but we just need more. We need more help and more support. So please reach out to um, one of the local cause members, and I promise you, they'll direct you in the right path.
Hell yeah. Well, we're sending nothing but love and solidarity to you, brother, and to everyone down there in North Carolina. To folks watching and listening, as Albert said, definitely follow Cause. We'll try to keep you updated on the organizing efforts down there near Raleigh. And in the immediate term, if you can, please do what you can to support Albert right now at this very tough time. Thank you so much for giving us your time and attention. Before you go, please head on over to therealnews.com/donate. Become a monthly sustainer of our work so we can keep bringing you important conversations and coverage just like this. For the Real News Network, this is Maximilian Alvarez. Thank you so much for watching.